Afternoon, welcome to Customer Experience R&R.
Or
This is our
morning, or
21st
lunchtime,
morning.
depends when you're watching it, of course. Don't make
Good point.
assumptions, Ryan. Don't make assumptions.
Good point. Good point.
We're
We're
in the
recording in
middle
the
of the
afternoon.
night. Somebody woke up at 2 in the morning and is listening to this very thing now, 2 in the morning, going, I've got to get my dose of R&R because I forgot to watch it earlier on.
Well, if nothing else, it'll help them back to sleep. well, welcome, Richard. 21. We've come of age.
21, episode 21. We've come of age. Down in the southwest, that's a good age to get to. I mean, you'd be lucky to live till we're 25.
Yeah, all that cider drinking.
So
it's what we're going to warble about.
We're going to warble. It's Customer Experience Week this week.
No, is it?
Yes, absolutely.
Does that mean you only do good service in the 1 week of the year?
That's it. This is the week, and it's Friday now when this is coming out. So if you haven't done it yet, you better hurry up and be nice to one of those customers you've got. Otherwise, you've missed out on Customer Experience Week. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an interest.
Every week for us is Customer Service Week. We don't need a special week.
Well, that to my point exactly. Is this what you tell your wife about certain in February with Valentine's Day? Darling, I don't need just one day to tell you how much I love you. Is that the same sort of story?
You've seen my ruse. You've seen straight through it.
Right, onto things that people want to hear about rather than stupid inane comments from me. So yeah, Customer Experience Week. There's been quite a bit of it sort of on LinkedIn and some social media side of things, and it's a great opportunity to pause, like we said last week and the week before, and stop and think about next year actually, and starting to replan. Because this is our 21st episode, and we're coming of age, and it is now the time that customer experience is really coming of age. Before, it was always referred to as customer service, and you had to be nice to people, and when you pick up the phone, say the name of your company and who you are, as I mentioned previously. But now the term customer experience is starting to be embedded into a lot more. And interesting enough, I was speaking to a gentleman today from a technologies background saying that he's hearing that terminology used over and over again now from across all technical platforms and tech providers, because processes are great, but remember, it's beyond the processes and it's into behaviours that actually makes the difference for your customers. So Customer Experience Week is a critical thing for us to pause, stop and think about what's going on out there.
Yeah, and it's a great point, Rich, and it's a great time now, isn't it? We've got through the summer, we're into the autumn. We know that things are really uncertain for many people still, and if you're listening to this and you're in a lockdown area, our hearts go out to you, because it must be really tricky trying to run a business in that situation. And all we can say is keep the faith. We'll get through this, and keep focusing on the right stuff. Keep focusing on what your customers want. And one of the things that that I was thinking about before we started recording this today was, as we're 21, I thought, how did this come about? How did we start talking about this stuff? And one of the things we started to talk about was what businesses were doing to pivot in the new world, and some of that stuff is stuck, isn't it? Some of that stuff is really stuck.
Mm-hmm. Where are you gone?
Now I'm here.
You're off.
My dog is chewing my slipper.
It's live podcast, folks. It's a live podcast.
Yeah. So now the dog has stopped chewing my slipper. One of the things that I've noticed, certainly in the last few weeks, has been this, because of the noise and activity around the local lockdowns, people have started, I believe, consumers have started to think and revert to some of the behaviours that we saw during lockdown. So shopping locally, there's been a bit of panic buying going on, isn't there, again? Mm-hmm. And interestingly, we were saying this before we started recording, but in my local town, the market was always a bit hit and miss on a Thursday and a Saturday, but it's really interesting, it's really vibrant now. Yeah. The stores are there every Thursday, every Saturday morning. There's a great meat stall, there's a great bakery stall, there's great produce stores. So I genuinely believe that the consumer experience that people got during the official lockdown period, this current activity is beginning people to think about shopping locally again, and sort of refocusing people's efforts on a great local experience.
Yeah, I think it's interesting actually, because that's having a knock-on effect to other organisations as well. I was on a great call with Dave with Chippenham Chamber of Commerce, and they're relaunching themselves to get more people involved because they realise that there is an opportunity here. And I'm sure the guys at Chippenham Chamber won't mind me saying that it wasn't exactly where they wanted it to be recently or over the last few years, but now they've got, okay, so we've got the opportunity. People are looking for that local view, for the local produce, for the local products. And so how do we make it as vibrant and as customer friendly an experience as possible? So people are definitely looking at that, and ourselves actually from over here in Wiltshire, over in Salisbury, we've actually just got ourselves an office now. We've moved out into, I know it's amazing, we're going to the next level now. It's all socially distanced and within the government guidelines, by the way, because it's myself and my wife sat in a room rather than in the dining room now, which is brilliant for us because it's made a difference to our thinking. But we've gone locally, you know, we're still in Salisbury. We haven't gone to a bigger area. It's one of the guys who I know, who's actually involved in the chamber in Salisbury, who owns serviced offices, and it's brilliant to be able to work with those people locally. So the community feel, I think, is being driven more and more now. So from a customer experience week point of view, you really do need to be thinking, how do we work locally within communities and the people we know within our networks, and actually get those guys working really well together, because that's how people are going to develop their experience and actually come out of this pandemic in a great place. You know, really focusing on the things that matter, as you quite rightly said. So I think that does make a big difference. Does make a big difference, even for, you know, products. You know, you're not doing retail or you're not doing hospitality. And blimey, you don't want to be in that sort of environment at the moment. It's a terrible situation for them. But you know, even if you're doing business B2B aspects, you know, all your suppliers, how is your interaction with them at this point? Are you asking them how they're feeling? Not being a counsellor, but you know, generally making sure that that network you have and the community you have is really well supported. So it does make a difference.
It's a great point, isn't it? Because, you know, as the year has gone on and we've kind of bumped around and bumped into in and out of months, and, you know, lockdown, relaxed lockdown, more conditions to abide by. Been a little bit like my holiday plans, Rich, to be honest. And in the summer, we were, you know, thinking about going away, and then you sort of the travel corridor stuff all came in, and we thought, no, we'll just camp locally. And then that was fine. And we thought we might try and get away at October half term, so we booked a couple of nights away in Brittany, and then all the stuff kicked off with the French government and having to quarantine, and that got canned. And then we booked a couple of nights away in Cambridge, the big smoke up in Cambridge, and then the kind of 10 p.m. curfew came in, and we thought, well, you know, do we want to go all that way and, you know, sit in a hotel room after 10 with a bottle of wine? Probably not. So that's got canned. So now we're back local again. So we're off to Cheddar. Yeah. You know, what better, you know, lovely cider, nice bit of cheese. Who can beat it? But my point is, we in our own plans, and millions of other people across the UK have had to do this, are having to pivot their own lives just to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And in that instance, the reason I mention that is because we're talking a lot to our clients now about getting your plans together for 2021. What's it going to look like from a CX perspective for your business? Are you asking your customers, your clients, what they're going to want from you next year? And that's a really difficult question for them to answer, because they probably don't know.
Yeah.
So they're going to probably need a little bit of guidance and help with that.
Absolutely.
But the overriding principle of having a plan and doing that by understanding your customers doesn't change if we're in a pandemic or not.
No.
So, yes, one of the things we were thinking, we are creating legal CX again this year for our law firm clients, as you know, and obviously we can't do that face to face. It's not safe to do that. So we're doing an online webinar series, and it's entitled Getting Legal CX Fit for 2021. And it's all about getting law firms to think about what is their strategy when we get into the new year, because undoubtedly when we get to the new year, you know, new year 2020, people will be just delighted 2020 is gone, and we can move on. So having a plan now for 2021, or the bones of a plan, is vital for you to hit the ground running quickly, and will enable you actually pivot more quickly if you need to in the coming year.
Yeah, and you know, the pivot word is the pivot word, and it's one that seems to have introduced itself during this time. It's about having the foresight and the insight to actually be able to make changes to what you do in local, you know, Wiltshirese. You know, if things ain't working, what can you do to grasp the opportunity? And you can only do that by actually gathering some insight.
What are you called if you live in Wiltshire, or what? A Wiltshire what?
Wiltshirese. No, that's what we speak. We speak Wiltshirese. But yeah, so it's about that insight piece, isn't it? It's really gathering, you know, what's going on and being able to understand where that can take you. And if you're doing the right thing, your customers are going to tell you, and you'll know through the metrics, your business metrics, in terms of, you know, the money coming in and the number of customers you've got, but also the sentiment. And that's a really key thing, you know. And sentiment in the moment. And I know we mentioned this last week. You know, we've got our feedback mechanism, which is being upgraded very soon in Instant Insight, and that provides that insight now, not at the end of 2020, looking back, because most people are going to go, oh, I don't want to think about it, I want to move forward. Ask people in the moment, and then you can provide the data. Actually enables you to move a little bit more quickly, and the agility word comes in. You can be a bit more agile in terms of where you react. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think the other thing that sort of builds on that point is, I've heard a lot this week from government ministers saying, you know, some of the jobs from the past are gone, they're dead, they don't exist anymore. It's moved us forward 5 years in terms of, you know, where we thought we would be. You know, you had the announcement from Boris this week about, you know, by 2030, you know, the majority of our power generation would come from offshore wind. And you kind of look at that and you kind of go, wow, you know, that is, you know, whether you agree with them or not, that is pretty transformational, isn't it, in terms of, you know, 10 years ago, when, you know, the majority of our power was still being generated by coal-fired power stations. I remember when I used to go to work at Boots in Nottingham, when I used to drive up from Devon, I used to drive past the Ratcliffe-on-Soar power station, and it had mountains of coal outside. And you think, God, that's all going up into the atmosphere, you know, and that's stopped, you know. So as time, you know, those jobs have changed. You know, what those people are going to do is changing, and you know, that is equally as vital and important for businesses to think that way. You know, how does my business need to change? And you might be sat there thinking, I was talking to a client about this last week, and he runs a very successful property management business, and he wants to understand how to change, but he's a really savvy guy, because he's not assuming that he's got all the answers. What he's doing is he's getting us to ask his clients how he should change, what works well, what they want different, what they want him to stop doing. You know, this stop, start, continue. I know we talked about that last week, but it's a really simple message. You know, what do your customers want you to stop doing? What's really hacking them off? You know, that should be in your 2021 plan. What do they want you to start doing? Because that gives you all of the structure and the strategy that you could want, because your customer type, your customers and your different customer types will tell you.
Yeah.
And then they'll also engage with you on what they value about working with you as well. So, you know, some of this stuff, your plans are really simple. If you ask your customers, they will put the customer at the heart, the customer centricity at the heart of your plan for 2021. You will be a very successful business next year.
That's a great message to end on this week's episode, because we are in a customer experience week. So it's great to be able to hear that you know, there's opportunities out there, and it isn't just a week when you can focus on customers, but it's all year round, and listening to them and then providing you with the strategy going forward. So I think it's one of the key things from our point of view. And our newsletter is out now as well. If you have received it, or if you would like to receive a copy, go to our website, www.insight6.com, where you can sign up to get the newsletter. It's got top 6 tips in terms of customer experience for this week. The key one being, number 1 being communicate, as we've said for many, many weeks. So keep doing that. And if you have liked our warblings today, please do like, comment and share as per usual, and we're available on all the platforms as normal as well. So number 22 next week, we'll be back.
Bloody dog's got my slipper again.
Right, go and chase the
Go
dog.
and spit that dog out, I am.
I've been Richard Knight.
And I've been Ryan Huxtable. Have a great week, everyone.